Well, let's turn then to our app category for this week, must-have apps that we think blind Android users should have. And this week, it's all about an audio books apps, a category which I suspect needs no real introduction, kind of does what it says on the tin, and many of our users I know will be avid readers. Warren, what's your audio books app of choice?
So technically, I'm not an audio type kind of guy. On a sleepless night, I put on an audiobook, and boy, in 5 or so minutes, I'm gone. So audiobooks to me are more or less like lullaby, trying to put me to sleep. And so I actually don't use audiobooks or don't listen to audiobooks. However, I know there are a few ones out there that really work well, and I have maybe a couple or 3 on my device. I do not, at the moment, have any audiobook necessarily. There was one that I got from the Play Store. And by the way, the Play books, Play audiobooks too. But you have to get them from either the Play Store or you can upload them to the Play Store, Play books rather. And so we have that. But then I think the one that most people talk about, especially on our email list, will have to be the likes of the Listen audio player, the Smart audio player, and there's a lesser known one that's called a Plaidy. Or is it Plaidy? Plaidy. I have a folder here.
Saturday, July 17th folder, audiobook players. Folder opened, 2x2.
And by the way, you know what? I resurrected my old Pixel, first generation Pixel XL. So this is what you are hearing. I have on here.
Plaidy.
That's the Plaidy. And then I have.
Bardmobile.
We're not going to talk about Bard, but Bard is there just in case you're in the US and you want to get books from the library.
Simple app free. Listen audiobook player.
And
audiobook players, edit box.
I'm not seeing my Smart audio player.
Storage permission is required to play audiobooks. Storage permission is required to play audiobooks.
So when you bring up this Listen audio player,
okay,
it asks you.
Allow Listen audiobook player to access photos, media, and files on your device. Allow button. Hush is running. Tap for more. Select the audiobook library folder. Folders can be organized inside other folders. A folder that directly contains audio files will be scanned as a book. Okay button.
Okay.
Files. Show routes button.
And so basically, it says show routes. You can actually just go choose where your books are located. And it also lets us know that you could also play a book from within a folder and things like that. Now, like I indicated, though, I'm not an audiobook user, but this is one of those nicely organized book players, audiobook players. And besides the Smart audio player, these are probably the 2 that I would say, hey, if you're not into, like the Amazon Audible, or you want to be able to play any audiobook, then these 2, the Smart audio player and the Listen audio player, would be the ones that you want to get. It places me now in my main storage. And of course, I would go and choose, let's see if I have any book.
Files on downloads. Allow access to downloads. Button out of print.
You have to allow it because it's kind of implementing the scope storage system.
Allow access review the file. Allow access to downloads. Button. Allow access to downloads and downloads. It will allow Listen audiobook player to have full access to all files currently stored under this location and any future content stored here.
So that's a neat implementation because you're able to now choose which parts of your phone the app should have access to. If there are areas that it's a no-no, then you don't allow it access to those portions or folders in your phone. And so I really like that.
Cancel button. Allow button.
And
library folder S. Navigate up.
And so what that means is that if I have audiobooks in my downloads, it can automatically grab those, or I could point it to those and it will have no problem accessing those books because I've already allowed it access to it.
Add library folders.
So you could tap to add library folders. It's there on the top right. That would be it, though, because I don't have any books to really demonstrate, and I wish I would have downloaded a book or two. Now, another good free book player, audiobook player, would be LibriVox, and that, of course, plays, classic books from LibriVox. So you like classics, that would be probably a good player to have. And we also have that on the Play Store. So LibriVox is another free player. Miriam, you are trying to say something.
Yeah, so what I was trying to say, as far as I know, that in the smart audiobook player, there's a premium subscription. Is that the same thing with the Listen audiobook player thing that you just demonstrated?
That's a good question. I think the Listen audiobook player doesn't have subscription models. You could just simply pay for an in-app purchase. I don't remember how much I paid for mine, but it's been a while, so I really don't remember. We'll look it up on the Play Store, and we'll put that in the show notes if it does specify as to how much it is. But I believe it's an in-app purchase.
And Warren, the first one you mentioned, Plaidy or Plaidy, how do you spell it?
Now, Plaidy, let's see. Here's Plaidy.
Folder, audio. Page 1 of 1. Plaidy. Capital P, L, A, I, D, Y.
Plaidy. Oh, Plaidy. Okay. Plaidy or Plaidy. I don't know. It's Plaidy. So basically, you're playing a book, but it's a Plaidy. Shall we open up Plaidy and see what Plaidy looks like? Let's try that.
Plaidy. Plaidy. Hello, please add audiobooks to your library.
Of course, it's telling me to add audiobooks because I don't have one.
Select folders.
And you can select folder.
Find audiobooks.
Find audiobooks. I wonder if that takes me to their website and grabs me books.
Select folders. Find audiobook. Allow Plaidy to access photos, media, and files on your device. Allow.
It's going to be searching in my folders.
Plaidy. Select audiobooks. Unknown author WhatsApp images, 6 of 20, and list 20 items.
So that's what it's doing. So it's now in my main storage, and it's seeing like my WhatsApp. This is my old phone that used to have WhatsApp on it, and frankly, I haven't pulled out my Pixel 1 first-gen Pixel in quite a spell. And
add the library out of list.
And I could choose to add those things to library and or not. So that's that Plaidy is it doesn't have any ads, at least that I know of, unless, of course, I paid for it, but I don't remember. So we'll put that in there just in case folks want to try Plaidy.
Excellent. Doug, are you an audiobooks man?
The only thing I use is Audible or Overdrive, which connects in with the libraries.
Ah, yes, Overdrive.
Yeah, and we all know Overdrive has its issues with accessibility on occasion, so...
Yeah, it used to be pretty good. I mean, I guess before there were many other options, but I guess it doesn't look quite as good as it used to now.
No, it's not bad, but it's definitely a little laggy.
Yeah.
Would definitely recommend Audible way over top of Overdrive, but in a pinch, Overdrive's great.
Yeah, and sometimes you're just driven by what your library are using, aren't you?
Exactly.
You don't always have a choice.
And I don't know too much, but I do know that Libby, I believe it is the new version of Overdrive. And last I actually did some research on it, it wasn't super accessible for Androids.
Interesting. Yeah, my library's just switched. I might have a look at that.
Yeah, Libby is from Overdrive. So, the parent is called Overdrive. And so Libby is that baby.
I do remember when I downloaded Libby, it told me to download Overdrive because it was more accessible. Like, that was a notification that I got from Libby. It was like, download the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but why not make it accessible from the get-go? You know what I mean? Come on, guys. Libby,
exactly.
If you're listening, fix that baby.
Unfortunately, even those on the fruit side of things don't get accessible Libby, so
Mhm.
I mean, at least it's equally inaccessible.
On all platforms. That's
So
right.
much for caring about us. In other words, we don't necessarily care about you guys. How else can I put it, guys? You are the library, and one would think that accessibility should be a priority for a place like a library that serves all kinds of people, but unfortunately, that isn't the case, and it's a shame. Let's call it, call a spade a spade. This is a shame that Libby is not all that accessible. I haven't tried it. I know I tried it. Maybe 2017. I installed it and it wasn't good. I got rid of it.
Overdrive got abused by various American librarians, as in criticized and insulted. We're going back probably almost a decade, so things may have changed, but they would have naughty tie-ups with Amazon where Amazon would know that your Overdrive book almost needed returning, so it would invite you to buy the Kindle app. And there's a very amusing audio blog. I hope it's still up, because I didn't know librarians said naughty words, but this lady got incensed that, because obviously what people read in the libraries is supposedly inviolable, and all Overdrive are sharing it on Amazon. So it was very funny. I might see if it's still up.
So let's talk about the advantages of an audiobook or disadvantages of an audiobook. Guys, what do you think are the advantages of using an audiobook?
You are multitasking.
Yeah, I hear that. So I could be cooking, right? So I'm thinking about my belly here, because I think my tummy comes first when I'm talking about stuff like this, multitasking. I'm trying to find something to eat, right? So,
Exactly.
oh my goodness. Or if you're a driver, and because it's not only the blind that use audiobooks, actually they're becoming popular with everybody. But usually when people think about audio, they're thinking just about us, blind people. But that's no longer the truth, is it? We all consume audio.
And I think relative advantages as well compared to what, I guess, is the question. So physical books, absolutely multitasking. Compared to ebooks, which I guess theoretically you could also listen to while cooking. For me, audiobooks can bring novelizations to life a little bit with professional actors. You can have adaptations, so your audio dramas. The disadvantage, I think, is that's a double-edged sword in some respects, though, because I've had books where the narrators absolutely ruined the book, and it would have been better off just listening to the text to speech. It's absolutely dire, and not just some of the voluntary organisations either that do them, and obviously are working in constrained circumstances. These are professionally recorded things with quite famous actors, and I'm like, you really shouldn't be doing this gig, fella. Someone should not have hired you to do this.
And for me, of course, like I said, it becomes a lullaby, put me to bed, baby, kind of thing,
So controversial, one of the worst audiobook narrators ever, Jim Dale, narrator of the American Harry Potter, British film star from a very amusing series of films, Carry On films. If you haven't watched them, you should. Full of innuendo, probably not allowed to be screened in public these days. But his accents just keep slipping. And that's what I mean by a narrator can just ruin a book.
Well, good. So those are the advantages, some of the advantages and disadvantages of audiobook players. So shall we call it good on audiobook players? And
I just want to make one comment about Audible. This isn't a comparative podcast, obviously. We don't do things like that. I will just say, though, that with the Android Audible app, you can buy books in the app. You do not have to pull up a web browser, as you may have to in other platforms. So something to bear in mind.
That's good. But before we move on, I just want to mention something else. It's called Scribd, and it's actually kind of competitive to Audible when it comes to like audiobooks, just because I think like payment is like $17 a month, and you could just have like as much books as you want. Because I know that in Audible, you cannot. And by the way, Scribd is pretty accessible, and it's unlimited, I guess. Like in Audible, you could get 2 originals a month, audiobooks, but in Scribd, it's not. There's another one, it's called AnyPlay. It's available in the Play Store, it's also unlimited, so you don't have like a certain number of books. If you read like 1,000 books a month, which is, kind of weird, but if you do, you won't have limited access to books. Like, you just pay the subscription and you get as many books as you want, which is good.
Yeah, that would be a lot of books. And of course, if you're reading 1,000 books a month, then you absolutely probably don't have life, outside of books.
Yeah.
I'll be lucky if I read 2 books a month. I don't think I even, I kind of gotten lazier and lazier when it comes to reading my books. However, if it's a nice book, of course I'll read it. It just doesn't have to be fiction, that's all.